Oh.
Okay. Okay, so welcome everyone to She Sports webinar. Today we're talking about sports federation. My name is Audrey Ihne and I'm delighted to be joined by Erik Lehmann, Elite and Competition Technical Director of Swiss Basketball, and Dave Haggerty, President of the International Tennis Federation and member of the Comité Olympique. Erik, Dave, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for
Erik,
inviting me.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Erik, we're going to start with you as the FIBA just organized a 3-against-3 pre-qualifying tournament in Nice last weekend. You call it Women's Series. How was it?
It was good except the weather, because it was raining for the 2 days. That was really bad. We have to reply in the gym because you know that 3x3 activities is basically organized outside. So we have a very nice venue in front of the FIBA, the International Federation, and we can play on Saturday, but unfortunately Sunday we have to back in Nyon in the gym. But it was really good. It was really good. Very good experience for us.
And so the event happened without spectators. How was that for the female players? Not to have to play like without spectators.
But you know now it's the player they have the habit in playing in front of closed door. You know, at the beginning of the season it was really tough because you know basically you have the crowd behind you. But now they have the habit, and I think it was good for them. So they have to be
Erik,
able.
Erik.
Yes.
Yes, Erik. Why are we talking about? You mentioned that this tournament was quite important for the Swiss basketball, generally speaking. Why is that tournament so important?
First of all, it's very important because we will play in 1 week now in the OQT to try to reach Tokyo, which is for the Swiss Federation, Basketball Swiss Federation, very important. It will be the first time that we can send players in the Olympics. And also, you know, to organize in Switzerland such kind of competition, which means a world competition, because we welcome, for example, Mongolia. I think it's the first time in the world. We have already in this tournament 3 teams qualified for Olympics, like Russia, Romania, and Mongolia. I think the level was really tough. It was a world competition, and basically in Switzerland we play just only European competition. You know, so that was the step where we take a step.
Correct. Is that due to the fact that you also hire a new coach? Her name is Caroline Turin. Can you tell us a word about her?
First of all, she was one of my former player. She played for me like 4 or 5 years. She's a very good girl, very good person. She has a lot of character. In the positive side of this word, you know, and I think she did really well as a player. She just beginning his coach career, but I think she will be very successful. Sorry, because she is able to give all what she had as a player to her team now, and okay, I think we will see. But she is a very strong girl, very competitive.
What if Caroline doesn't bring the girls to the Olympics?
Well, first of all, she's in contract just for this event. You know, she's not a full-time coach for the Swiss Federation, but you know, we will see. And she is also once again, she has also a very big experience as a 5-on-5 player, also as a 3-on-3. I forget to tell you that, because she was a member of our national team 3x3 for women. And if you know, we will compete with 20 teams, and only 3 will go to Tokyo. So we know that the goal is really, really high. It's very tough to reach this goal. And I think that Caroline is the good coach, the good person, the right person to reach it. But we will see. There is not too much pressure on our shoulder, you know, and we know that it will be really tough.
Okay, so you won't fire her in case she's not able to bring the girls to the Olympics?
No, at all. No, she's just you know, we hire her just for this tournament. She will continue to work with us. You know, she will take probably the under 23 teams there. So she will continue with.
No, when looking at okay, very good. And no, when looking at Swiss basketball figures, so then we noted that only 1/4 of the players are women with a sporting license, and that those figures even tend to go down compared to last season. How do you explain that?
First, we lost only 7% of all our members. You know, so regarding the COVID situation, I think not too bad. After that, for sure, 25% of the players are only women. It's a very, very, very low number for us. It's very tough to explain if we compare what is the situation around Europe, and especially, for example, in France, Spain, or Germany. It's almost 50-50. And I don't know exactly why Switzerland has this so low number regarding the women members, you know. I don't really have an explanation. Maybe we have, for sure, a lot of sport, like uni hockey, with very special Swiss sport, you know, like volleyball, like handball. Everybody, all the country have this problem, you know, and I don't know exactly. No, I don't know.
Maybe it's a cultural problem. I know for Swiss cycling, yeah, it's also lower numbers in female participation. And I don't know, Dave, how is it with you? Is it in tennis also the slightly imbalanced?
Well, I think tennis, we've got about 87 million players around the world, and tennis is about 53% male and 47% female. So it's almost equal. But when it comes to coaches and officials and other areas, that's where we need to make some improvements.
Okay, back to Erik now. Erik, you've been promoting, I think Swiss basketball has been promoting the launch of a brand new training center. But so this center will be dedicated to male player, prior than to female players. I think this decision you mentioned was made by Swiss Olympic. Yes, again, how do you explain that?
Well, first of all, you say prior. So I would say that for the women's side, it will be probably in 2023, so in 2 years. So why we decide to open the National Center for Men first? First of all, you know, we change of group regarding Swiss Olympic. You know, we have a classification of sport, and we were in the group 4, and now we become in the 3, which is a very good things for us. And we also increase a lot of the grants from Swiss Olympic. And so that's the reason, because the men increase the grants. So we decide to give the money back to the men's side. And that's the reason we decided to open the National Center for Men first.
But what was the reaction of the female players to such a news? What was the reaction of the female players? I think they're watching us now. So what were their reactions?
I think it was really a big decision, you know, for our committee, for the Swiss basketball committee. We have a lot of discussion. But at the end, we decide that. I don't think that the community, the women community of basketball, they understand that. They know now in 2 years it will be made. So I think that everybody understands that it should be the men first. At the beginning, we tried to manage like 6 men and 6 women. But definitively, we decided it's better to start with 12, and in 2 years have 12 girls. And everybody understand that, I think, now.
Okay, and how do we bring now attention to the female game and female players? We had the example of the women NBA. What do you think about the idea of applying the NBA, this idea of applying what the NBA has been doing to the women NBA? Like we had like the male players promoting, like taking care of the promotion of the female players. Would that be an idea for Switzerland?
Yes, it can be an option. It can be a good idea. What we do first of all, we have a very good relationship between the, for example, national men team and the national women team. They share a lot of time together because everybody. Switzerland is a very small country, so everybody knows everybody. And so I think also that the Swiss Federation is doing a good job regarding the promotion and regarding especially the event we organize. For example, when we have the League Cup or the Swiss Cup, we have a game for the men and a game for the women in the same gym with also the TV are there for both gender. So I think we promote pretty good the women's side of basketball in Sweden.
Good. So we mentioned the women's series, which is a big event organized by the FIBA. We have to remember that Giancarlo Sergi is the president of Swiss basketball, but that he's also part of the European board of the FIBA, if I'm not wrong. So what would you say? So what can be improved to work together? Are all national federation in the same boat? Dave Haggerty might have the answer for us. Dave, I'm asking you now, yes, what do you think of it? What would be your recommendation for Swiss basketball?
Well, it's always easy to give some suggestions for another sport. It sometimes seems clear, but all kidding aside, no, I think that it's important that the national federations work with the international federation because you have to have a global view, and then you have to take that and adapt it locally, and make sure you do what you can to improve whatever you're trying to do. And I can see from the outside, I don't know basketball as well, but I do follow basketball, and I see the great work that they're trying to put into women's basketball. And certainly the Women's Professional League in the United States, I've known for many years, being an American, even though I'm living in London, and I see the efforts, and it's so important for women's sport, for equality, for diversity, for everything to be on equal footing. And our job is to get there as soon as we can. And I think that's what Erik is doing, and what the national federations do when they work with the international federations.
Dave, but we have to admit that maybe tennis is a bit more ahead than the basketball, generally speaking. Dave, you have the International Tennis Federation, which is the official organizer of the ITF Women's World Tennis Tour. And the ITF is currently running a wheelchair tournament. Now, unlike basketball, again, tennis is attractive for female players as well as for male players. So you're also willing to diversify this with the wheelchair now. Maybe could you tell us or give us an example of a Gen Z tennis player? I'm thinking about Camilla Bartone, but maybe you have other examples to give us, who belong to this new elite, who is also able to promote themselves.
Yep. So I think what we try to do is we really look at, we have a program we call Advantage All. And while it has a lot to do with women, it's about equality. And if there isn't equality then in sport, then it shouldn't exist. So I think we have examples like Camille, who is doing some blogging and some different things. And but we also give that same opportunity to Rune, from a boy from from Sweden, who is out there playing as well, and we do it on the professional level because we think it's important that everyone have a voice. And in fact, I think that's one of the 5 pillars of our Advantage All program. Is the voice is so important, as is empowering. and giving the opportunity. So I think we're trying to empower young women at a young age. And in tennis, you know, we've had competitions for over 100 years at the Grand Slams with men and women playing together. So it just happens to be, so we're fortunate in that way. But I can tell you, we also have a lot of work to do. In the boardroom, it's not 50-50. In 2018, I started the Advantage All program because in 2017, I looked at our annual general meeting, 200 people, 29 women. It's not good enough. And so we put together some plans and some programs of what we can do to attract more women. We do the same thing on the court. We have to do the same thing in officiating with coaching. And you have to give, you know, young girls the opportunity at a 5 years old to have the confidence to step on a tennis court with a male and to be able to play.
So that's great. We see an evolution for the young female athlete, but how about Naomi Osaka, Serena Williams? I mean, they are among the high profile female players. They still gain or have less money, gain less than Djokovic or Rafael Nadal. How do you explain that this gap is still existing here?
Well, I think like anything else, it takes time. But if you look at the Forbes, you know, top 100 sport athletes, you will see Naomi and Serena towards the top of that list. But yes, Roger and Novak and Rafa are earning more, but much of that comes through their sponsorships. I think what we look for is a quality on the court where we can produce it. So we have had since 1972, I believe it is, equal prize money at Grand Slam events for men and women. We just recently took our women's team competition, which was called the Federation Cup, and we renamed it the Billie Jean King Cup. And with that, we made equal prize money for the Billie Jean King Cup to the Davis Cup, which is the men's equivalent because of that. Our World Tennis Tour events, they're the same amounts of money for the men and the women, the equal, you know, prize money that we have. So it's important, but it's not everywhere. But it should be, and it takes time. And I think from a sponsorship perspective, again, I think there are many companies that get it. There's still quite a few that don't. And I think that you can see the value of women and what they do on the field of, you know, the field of play, but also in the boardroom and you know, everywhere.
Isn't that money also depending on your spectators? Are you currently in the same case as basketball, in which, I mean, they're not allowed to have any spectators, or does still tennis have spectators? And if some spectators, what kind of spectators are we talking about?
Yes, so tennis has been fortunate that we've been able to run a very good calendar of events week in and week out, but it all depends on the location of where they are. So this year we started off in Australia with the Australian Open and some lead-in events to that. And there were some spectators, but then in Melbourne, COVID increased for a week, and for 5 days, no spectators. So we have to be very fluid as our tournaments are running as to what they can have. Soon we'll be in Roland Garros in Paris, and we're hoping for about 25% to 35% spectators to begin, and hopefully by the finals weekend up to 50%. So again, this does impact the organization of the event. Also, it challenges with prize money. But the one thing that in these events that doesn't change is the prize money is equal. Mm-hmm. So if it comes down for everyone because of those reasons, but it's equal prize money.
And I think, sorry.
Is it something, because you recently got, yes, Marisa, go ahead.
No, because I think it's like really super to hear that. And I think, you know, you mentioned it came in 72 and we all know what happened there. And I mean, you just named also Billie Jean that you know, attributed now an event her name, but what I feel like, it needed outside pressure, or actually inside pressure from the people who are in the spotlight, to actually change something. And I think this is also what we see now so much, that it needs that little nudges here and there, and they become, of course, more vocal now because also of social media. So it's I think what Billie Jean has done at that time was immense, looking at that we didn't have social media at that time or anything. Yeah, imagine if she would have had social media and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and so forth. But I think that's really interesting, that it actually pushed the federation into a position where they were like, okay, we have to change something because it's actually right what they're saying. And I think this is also what you see now a lot, that athletes getting more vocal, or fans or whoever, from the outside and inside. And you mentioned also, it's not easy in the boardroom to convince people to maybe be more self-reflective actually, and see, hey, okay, it worked so far, but maybe things have changed. Maybe it's time to change something. So I think that's really great that you continue to do that also, and look, how can we increase it further?
We have a lot of work to do, but part of it is you have to acknowledge that you want to change. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, shine a spotlight on things is very, very important. But you're right. I think the social pressure that can come from the constituents, the members, to tell you that you have to change and ask for their help.
Dave, you recently became an IOC member. So how are you going to use your voice? We just talk about the voice of the athletes. They have to be the role models. How about those role models from this institution like you are? Yes, can you tell us about maybe about of your road to becoming an IOC member?
Yeah.
And how are you going to bring this voice a bit louder?
Yeah. Well, I'm very fortunate to have been, to become an IOC member, and I think that we're about 100 members, and so we each play a role in trying to help and contribute, and that's what I'll do. I mean, the IOC is actually a good example, and some of the things that we've done in gender equality and in this diversity area have come from some of the initiatives of the Olympic Charter and of Agenda 2020 and the new Agenda 2020+5. And diversity sits at the key of that. And, again, about 40% of the IOC members are women. Commissions are about 50%. So that inspires us. We aren't there yet. So we've set targets of where we want to go and what we want to do as a federation. So the nice thing is I feel that I learn as an IOC member, but I'm also able to contribute because there are some things in our sport that we might do that could be good examples. And that's why we're so lucky to be part of this sport family and the Olympic movement, because I can learn from Erik in basketball. And maybe there's something that tennis can help and contribute, in cycling as well. We all learn from one another, and that's what makes sports so great.
And we're sure you're going to learn a lot from basketball today too. Dave, how important is the role of federation in the organization of the Olympics? We're going to talk about it. Why also our federation being so dependent on the IOC model in order to survive? Erik, Dave, I've actually asked you to review a piece that Marisa Reich, our chair at She Sports, wrote. Any comment on it? On the title, maybe? Which one very vital?
Can you repeat? Sorry.
Erik, maybe.
Yes.
Yes, Erik. I asked you to review Marisa's piece on federation. Marisa is getting very critical towards federations. Yes. Do you have any overall comment on it? Have you read the piece?
No.
No, putting people in the spotlight.
Not that much, Dave.
No.
So. maybe we will start with Marisa then. Marisa, can you explain us, I mean, you bring this piece, or you've been publishing this piece like quite recently. Why do you think, why was that the good time to publish that piece on federation? Why that topic at that time?
Well, I think it's not only at that time. I think, you know, ethics and integrity is crucial to sports, and also to, you know, what Dave mentioned, the IOC charter, etc. I think it has been at the core of the Olympic movement ever since. I think it's just a matter of, you know, how, when do we put words or give words a meaning, you know, and I think that's been probably a little bit forgotten. And I think we always used that in terms of athletes. You know, they had to be the prime example, the role model. They have to be a high ethical standard. You know, you shouldn't dope, you shouldn't do this. But I think we need to actually take a step back and, you know, and look inside an organization to see, are we just pointing fingers and looking for faults in our athletes because they are, you know, the prominent people out there? Or maybe do we also need to reflect ourselves and how things are run? And so I think, you know, it goes back to, you know, I mean, anti-doping agency, the WADA, was established in 1999, and it didn't came from oh, we have so many cases. It came from, we need to change something because we just, you know, we're just at the surface of things. And I mean, we had major doping issues in the past before 1999, and then it seemed to get a peak afterwards because suddenly, you know, there was structure in this whole thing. So, and I think this is why we actually need more, or have to have a closer look. You know, are we still working in the ethical way? Integrity is a big word in that. How we want to go further about it, or is it maybe something we need to look a little bit more closer in order to, you know, realign ourselves as an organization? And I think, you know, that piece, I mean, for me, those pieces are, I think I just want to, it's not about finger pointing. That's not it. Yeah. It's about bringing or discussion topics to the surface. You know, nobody wants to talk about, and I'm working now 20 years in sports. And I just today, I remembered a scene when I started as an athlete's agent. Yeah. In the 2000s, I worked in athletics all my life. And I was an agent, and I was sitting at a lunch table with another really high profile agent in athletics. And I was telling him, you know, that because I'm also lecturing, that I would love to have ethics as a standard course in university, sports ethics, because I think it's needed, because there we, you know, we bring up the new talent who should go into federations and clubs to manage those. So I think they should have a basic knowledge of, you know, what is integrity, what means ethics, etc. And then that person said to me, well, maybe it's wasted time. Why don't you give your students acting classes, because it's about who lies best. And I was sitting there really, I mean, I was beginning of my 20s, you know, just starting in the business, and that was devastating. But now reflecting on it 20 years back, I mean, he had his point, because that's how he grew up, you know, that's how the world in sports worked. And now I think the time has come, and maybe a little bit to maybe reflect, you know, are we on the right path? It was established, and maybe we gotten off a little bit a certain track, and maybe there is some need for some realignment. And that doesn't mean that something was totally bad. I mean, sports flourished, but we also see, I mean, Erik mentioned it, you know, with the decline of, you know, athletes, or who want to do sports, members. I'm at the board of Swiss Cycling also, and we also have see that decrease in members. In athletics, we see that decrease. So it's about, hey, how do we get those young people in it? And that piece, I think, also is the reflection of what is the perception to mothers, fathers out there of the sport business. And it's not the best, I think, at the moment. But there are great examples out there, and we should learn from the great.
Well,
I think, Marisa, there is one quote that maybe sum up what you say. Maybe Dave, you can comment on it. The quotes from Marisa say, the athletes, are role models for many children and adults, but not the institution that provide the foundation for the athletes. So Dave, maybe, how do you explain it?
No, I think, Marisa, you make a very, very good point. I mean, we should hold ourselves to the same standards that we hold athletes to, right? We're competitors. We're professionals in our field of play. It might be in a boardroom or committee room, but we should hold ourselves. So integrity and governance are very, very important in a federation. And, you know, we believe that very, very much. I mean, we have a constitution, we have a code of ethics, we have an ethics commission, and conflict of interests are talked about at every board meeting that we have. But we have to remember how important it is, because we know in sport, if people don't believe that what happens on the field of play is true, they lose confidence. Well, the same is true in the boardroom and with a federation. And we've had examples in the past of federations that maybe didn't always have the best practice, and all of a sudden there's some corruption. Well, we should hold ourselves to the same standard of corruption and no corruption, you know, whether it be doping or whatever it happens to be, that could be equivalent for a federation. So I agree with your sentiment.
Erik, you are yourself, you're a former coach, also former basketball athlete. How is your comment on do you share the comment from Marisa on it?
Yes, completely. I think I am completely right with it.
Okay, talking about role models and countries, we could follow the example. Marisa mentioned Australia in that piece. Marisa, could you please maybe elaborate a bit and explain to us, why is Australia such ahead, and why is Australia such a good example?
Well, I think it might be that they're so far away from the melting pot of sports like Europe, for example, or in the US, but I think Australia does a fantastic job when it comes to, you know, research. I think one of the best research comes from there, actually, especially when it comes to, you know, governance, but also coaching, etc. It's always good to see how much effort they put in there, and also about the good governance. And they, for example, are the first country or continent actually to launch a sport integrity unit for the entire country, because they also say, you know, sport is so crucial for society, for their country, you know, for the well-being of their inhabitants, of their population, and also that bringing people together, you know, and that I think also needs to be protected. Yeah, I think we all know why we work in sports, because we love it so much, how it brings people together. I mean, Erik and I were quickly talking about if I speak French, and I have to, I don't. I learned it in school, but yeah, I hope my French teacher doesn't see that, because I was a really bad student in French. But I think, you know, like we have that common language of English, and, you know, and even if you don't speak the same language, you can still do something together. And that is the magical power, I think, of sports, which we all love so much. Yeah. And I think Australia is, you know, just pushing a little bit. They're reviewing things. I mean, look also, New Zealand, Australia, look, you know, the government, how it's run. And I think they also dare to try something new and believe in it. And that's, I think, sometimes missing maybe a little bit. Maybe they're also not so critical. I don't know, you know, they let maybe, or they trust maybe their institutions more. I don't know what it is, but for me, that was a great example of a country acknowledging that it needs to be doing something in order to protect something. And actually Switzerland will now do the same thing. You know, they also will launch that integrity unit in Switzerland, to actually, you know, not only have an anti-doping agency, but bring everything together. And look also at, I mean, we had these harassment scandals, you know, that, I mean, we all know about what happens everywhere sometimes. And, how can we make sport again a safe space, for everyone, be it an athlete, be it a coach, be it an employee. So, and I think that is really important, that we want to be autonomous as a sport, but sometimes it's good to have a little bird watching just to make sure everybody's following the lines. Because if you don't have anybody, and we know it when we were children, when nobody's watching, for sure we didn't do everything the way it should be. So
well, one of the things that that I think the international federations have, which is very good for us, is the summer sports, the ASOF, Summer Sport Federation. I believe the same for winter. They have a governance review. So for the last 5 years, there's been a governance review that's done every other year. So we've had 3 renditions of it, and it kind of has 50 principles, and each of the federations self-rate themselves, and then the ASOF looks at it and they rate you and come up with a rating of where they think it is. And then you have a kind of not a ranking, because you know where you are, and you know where but you don't know where other sports are necessarily. And it's very helpful, and it's been a way for us to improve our governance through a number of different things. Transparency, as a good example. And I do know that we have established within tennis a independent body, independent tennis integrity agency that oversees the doping and corruption together, because and it has to be with some independence to make sure that that sport doesn't trip over itself.
Yeah, and I actually also think that.
Sorry. Yeah. Maybe Erik, sorry, Marisa. Erik, what do you think of it? Would you apply the same? Would you integrate the same to basketball? Because we're now talking about tennis and about the establishment maybe of those independent integrity units. Well, is that a need in basketball?
I don't think we need really that, because it's a little bit different.
Why
not? Because I think the situation is not really the same. I think that I don't know what that's what I'm saying, but I think that there is maybe more problem in tennis regarding this that in basketball. I don't know really I don't want to say that, because I'm not.
Are we talking about doping, or what are we talking about?
Doping is I think it's a big problem for all federation, and also you have to understand also that basketball is a very special sport, because we have the top level with outside of the international federation. For the NBA is not, the NBA is completely alone, and they have their own rules, and it's far different. They just joined the FIBA for the Olympics, because now they send the top NBA player with the national team. I know it's really, really different. I don't think the rules regarding doping, for example, are the same in the international level of FIBA, for example, and the NBA. It's really different. So I think that's we are really late in basketball, for example, for this topic.
So compared to tennis.
Yes, compared to tennis. Right. That's right.
Okay, so maybe we could come now to some questions. We got questions from the audience, very interesting ones actually. But maybe beforehand, I would like to ask Dave to ask a question to Erik, even though Dave just mentioned that he didn't know that much about basketball. I think Erik has an advantage. He said he's playing tennis himself, but let's give it a try. Dave, could you please ask your question, maybe 1 or 2 questions to Erik, please?
Sure. Well, first question I was thinking was in the regards of you're a national federation and I'm an international federation. So how can an international federation help a national federation? What could we do to help you if we were in the same sport, let's say? if you understand my question.
Yes, I understand your question. Yes, well, it's a very, very big question. You know, first of all, us it's really nice for the Swiss basketball because we located in the same country that the FIBA, the International Federation. Now, more seriously, we have very good relationship. I don't know exactly. First of all, for me, the role of the International Federation is promote the sport everywhere in the world, okay, and organize very big competitions, you know, try to sign big sponsors also because to put money in the sport because we know how it's important now to have a lot of grants coming from everywhere, you know, and so I think also the role of the International Federation is put all the federation, even the small and the big, on the same level, you know, that they have a equal behavior regarding Switzerland, which is, for example, a very small federation, and United States of America or France, who are really big for basketball.
Can I also answer?
Of course. Marisa, go for it.
No, because I used to work in athletics, so a lot with you know, German Athletic Federation, with cycling, and I think, you know, for me, also being an agent, the problem was always, you know, like who has the highest vote on things or the highest stake with the athlete. And I think this is still a topic which needs to be solved, you know, like if you see the athlete, I mean, in the end, we only have the athletes to promote a sport. There's nothing else we have. Yeah, so who has the rights of the athlete and actually what does the athlete want? So it's, I think, a really tricky, you know, combination. You have the agent, you have the coach, you have the parents, you have the national federation, you have the international federation. But in the end, we all want the same. We want to, you know, we want to promote the sport because that's what we love, you know. I mean, Naomi Osaka loves her sport, yeah, and I love my athletics or ice hockey sport. So, and I think it's really tricky, you know, and I also think like the International Federation is probably to guide also the national federations or steer them along, and, you know, and I think also be that role model. And I think that because they should, like the national federation should also learn something from the International Federation. So I think for International Federation, then it becomes even more prevalent to, fill in that role model. And, you know, and I like what you said, Dave, that you know, you have targets on diversity also for the boardroom, you know, that it's not only because if you then say, hey, you know what, we managed it, I'm sure every one of your national federations can also do it, and, you know, encourage people instead of saying, oh, you have to do it, but we don't. Yeah. So I think really like role model.
You know, the FIBA Europe this year, the European part of the FIBA, they decide for all the youth competition that we will have this summer. That's U16, U18, U20. In the staff, it's mandatory to have a girl, which is, well, we can discuss about that. I think it's good, you know. Basically, a staff in basketball for youth is 3 people. We have the head coach and 2 assistant coach, and we have to have one. And that's the International Federation who promote that. It's really good, I think.
Yeah, I think it's necessary. I think we see.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
I mean that's what we always discuss. Yes, you know, if you don't put a target behind, it's something like in management, you would never just say, oh, you can do whatever you want. You will always do KPIs. You know, what is your KPI? What is your goal? Your target? But then when we come to those things, it's like, yes, do it, and, you know, we trust you that you will do it. And then actually, you know, it's hard to do. And I know, like, I've been talking to many federations and people and clubs, you know, like how we can increase our female staff, you know, senior staff, and it's not easy. But if you don't have that motivation of you have to do it, then it becomes something like, oh, it's too hard, so, you know, I'll put it into the backlog, and whenever I have time for it, then I get onto it. So I think to have that inner drive.
We put together a toolkit that we give to the national federations, and they share it within their countries as well, that has a whole program on this advantage all. And we decided not to set quotas, not to say it, you must have 50%. We set targets because we realized that sometimes the people that we're working with could be negatively impacted by the way that we approach this. So by setting targets, but we measure them because we know what gets measured gets done, right? So you have to measure things, but targets seem to be a better approach. But that's a great thing that basketball has done. I'll take a note from that.
Very good. How about a question from Erik to Dave now? Let's talk about tennis.
First of all, I really like tennis. You know, I have two kids who get a scholarship in the United States of America to play tennis, one boy, one girl. And I follow the sport because it's really a very, very nice sport and a great sport all over the world. I have a question. You told us that the prize money in the Grand Slam is now equal in both genders. And my question is, I have almost two questions. My question is it really a wish that the International Federation had, or it's under the pressure of the women tennis player that now you got the similar prize money? And also my second question is what about the men level, what they say, because the men that play the games of best of 5 and the girls best of 3, so they say, okay, we spend more time on the court, now is not equal in our side.
No, very, very good question. So to put it into context, in 1972, the US Open became the first Grand Slam to have equal prize money. So it was a big jump. You know, nothing had been done. There had probably been some pressure from the women's tour on that. But then over the next, let's say 10 years, the other Grand Slams all did the same thing. And so equal prize money happened, but it's been happening now for quite a while, which is important. And you know, I think that male players some may say things differently publicly and privately. Publicly, you know, some will understand and thinks that it's the right thing to do. There are some that publicly have said, we play 5 sets, it's a more competitive match, we're on the court you know, at least 1.5 hours longer, it's not fair. But I think that we see that as people mature, and some may have families, and some may even have children, and those children are girls, they sometimes change their perspective.
It helps, yes.
And I think what we've tried to do is we've talked about the experience, right? Sport is entertainment. And I have seen many good women's matches that are shorter than some long men's matches that weren't good, and vice versa, right? So I think it's the quality of the entertainment. That's how you have to look at it. And we know that sponsors today, many sponsors want to sponsor women's events and of all sports. So I think that's also very helpful.
Mike.
Very good. What if we take a question from the audience, maybe now? Or Erik, you had a second question? A third question?
Oh, no. I have prime of battery.
That's very good. Aha. Okay. Please hold on. We're gonna have another 9 minutes at least. So please hold on with us, Erik. We got a question from the audience asking. Maybe let's ask that to Marisa, since we're talking about Germany. It's about football. So related to that, in Germany, the campaign Football Can Do More was launched yesterday, between, let's say, yesterday and today, in connection with the changes at the top of the German Football Association. The aim is to bring more women into the top management of the association, among other things, through a quota. What do you think about this? So
well,
we're moving to football now. We have to, I guess.
Well, I think the DFB is a special case. I think even in London they have heard about it, I'm sure. I think, you know, if a federation is under so much scrutiny and, you know, and I mean, they had their struggles over the past couple of years also. I mean, you know, just because it's a woman doesn't mean necessarily that it's better. I think, you know, there are good leaders and bad leaders, and it can be either a woman or a man. So I think that's for sure. Yeah. So a woman might not be the remedy, because I think it's the structure behind it. You know, just because you have a female leader doesn't mean that everything within the federation changes. And I think this is then something when you realize that over several years something is not really working, and things are coming up again and again and again, that you might need to look at the structure better and the processes and the things, you know, which are not talked about. And I think this is then really the topic of, you know, who goes in there. And maybe it's even better for the DFB to have somebody who has not been with the DFB so far, because that person has more, that's a bad term, but more virgin look into it. Yeah, sorry. But, you know, because what do you do with somebody who has been in the same structures for so many years? I mean, you know, you build allyships along your way, you been, you know, I mean, that's also the problem of senior leaders. You have been taught by your superiors over time, so you learn to imitate their behavior. It's same for, you know, children, parents. Like when you see your child, you're sometimes embarrassed, and then you realize, oh, that's me actually right there. So, and I think same goes with companies and federations. So sometimes it's better, I think, to get people from outside into something, to really have a proper look and to identify where do we need to make changes, what things can stay and what things not. But yes, I would bring a woman in there, but not from the DFB federation, but maybe from another sport. And I think that's also what Dave and Erik mentioned. We can learn actually from each other. And that is the good thing, you know, just because I did all my life athletics doesn't mean I can bring value to other sports, because I just have a different perspective. And I think that is actually what is really nice to see. You know, we should learn from each other. We should bring our ideas from one sport to the other and vice versa. And so I think, yes, make it a woman, but maybe not from the DFB, which doesn't mean that they're not good. Not at all, just to help them getting into, you know, a new direction.
Thank you, Marisa. I think we lost Erik, but in the meantime, Dave, would you like to share your insight on, yes, can football do more?
Well, you know, I think that everyone could do more. I mean, I think if you start with the premise that equality is really not an option. It's an imperative, and it's an obligation that we all have. And if you start with that premise and you bring your board of directors with you, you bring your staff and your management team, if you lead by example, then I think you can do more. And you know, sports in the past have tended to be more male dominated, oriented than female. So we got to do that change. You know, we've got to change that together. And you know, football can, but again, I think every sport can. I know tennis can, and that's what we're trying to do. But I think certainly every sport should.
Wonderful. Maybe because we're arriving to the end of this webinar, Marisa, would you like to? I would like to sum it up today's webinar. What are maybe the takeaway lesson from this webinar?
Well, I think it's, you know, we should probably look at the ones who do it right. And I think tennis is a great example, you know, and it doesn't matter or the why doesn't matter. Why did they take a different way or path? You know, I think it's the matter of acknowledging it. And I think in sports, we tend also to be, you know, more, to maybe cocky sometimes, you know, like, oh, we know it best, you know, like you have to be self-confident, but sometimes it's also good to go in yourself and reflect and really, you know, see, okay, how can we do it better? And I think that's what I learned now also from working with startups. You know, you need to question yourself all the time, and especially in times when it's really good, you should start questioning yourself, what can we do better? Because there will times will come where it's not so good, but then it's too late. And I think COVID has shown us quite well last year that some sports were not prepared for the worst, because, you know, they were just relying on, well, we have safe income, we have sponsors, we have, you know, our houses are full, but there is actually always something which can come up. And I think if we would be more open to change, try out things, open to things, open to discussions, and not take it too personally, but always have the end goal in mind. You know, in the end, we want to bring kids to do a sports, and for that we need those role models. For that we need a safe space. For that we need integrity. For that, you know, my biggest dream, I'm from Berlin, so my biggest dream was always the Berlin Olympics. Yeah, so it didn't happen in 2000, you know, so I was voting as a child for the Berlin Olympics, but one day it might be. But I also know that for the fans, they see it differently. For them, they see the athletes and they like that, but then they see the federations and all the, you know, news out there in the newspapers, and this is what they don't like. And then, Dave, you mentioned it, then, you know, it comes with trust. And once you destroy the trust, it's really hard to gain their trust again. And unless we are not able to do that, it will be hard for any host city to become a host city, because you need the people behind it. Yeah, and I mean, London, I think, did a great job with the London Olympics, you know, to also get the people on board. But it's a long way. It comes with everyone pulling together, having that one goal. And sometimes I think for sport, that one goal is a little bit missing, or out of, you know, not in sight, just because of other things like money and power and those things. So yeah, a little bit more humble views to the goal, I think, would be good.
Great. We got Erik back. Maybe Erik, a final word for you. What are your takeaway lessons for today?
I apologize because I have a technology problem. As you know, we are a very small federation.
But you managed it. Hey, that's, you know, it's the end goal.
Hey, we don't pay the last month for electricity, you know, so.
So maybe Erik, yes, to sum it up, what are your takeaway lessons for today, or from today? What did you learn about tennis today? What did you learn about She Sports?
I learned a lot today.
What did you learn from us?
Yes. I learned a lot for the future, and I will take.
We'll watch you.
And what will you apply? What will you concretely apply? Will you apply anything of Dave's, what Dave has been sharing with us, for example?
Yes, but I think we far from the goal. May we try. It's a long way, you know. So we start. We're gonna go step by step. But voilà. So we have to continue to try to promote everything and promote women in sports. That's sure. As you know, I told you, basketball is played by women all over the world. We play in South Africa, we play in South America, we play in Africa a lot, we play in Asia. So there is no. We have to increase the number of women members in Switzerland for sure in the next 10 years. We should have like 10,000 more. It's a big goal. It's a big goal.
That's great. Erik Lehmann, Elite Competition and Technical Director of Swiss Basketball, Dave Haggerty, President of the International Federation, were with us today. Thank you for being with us again. We hope to see you soon again on She Sports. She Sports will be holding and sharing regular talks about the Olympics over the summer, and we'll also launch sessions on Clubhouse, so we will see everybody's there. See you soon.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
And thank you for being with
Thanks,
us.
Dave.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Audrey.
much.
Bye-bye.